I'm Megan, and this is Confessions of a Female Founder, a show where I chat with female entrepreneurs and friends about the sleepless nights, the lessons learned, and the laser focus that got them to where they are today.
Meghan wants to be in the same league as these successful female entrepreneurs. That is why she's chosen this route. You are who you associate with. Meghan imagines her name in Forbes articles or on the cover of Entrepreneur magazine next to these self-made successes versus next to comparisons of Catherine, Princess of Wales, in a tabloid. I also think Meghan wants to be able to use this podcast as proof that she's an ally to women, despite multiple reports of her bringing employees to tears, employees quitting Meghan for their mental health, and some seeking therapy. Meghan wants to erase all of that from the public's memory. Instead, they want you to think, look at Meghan, the girl boss. Look at Meghan, the girl's girl. This type of podcast layout also gives her the opportunity to do what she is so desperate to do, and that is talk about herself and her own accomplishments and climb. But Markle disagrees with the narrative that she has what she has today because she married a prince. So I suspect we will hear very little about Harry, but she will lean into stories about Archie and Lily, knowing they will dominate headlines. And the public reacts pretty positively to stories about working mothers. So that's a perk as well. When you lose such a lucrative opportunity like Meghan lost with Spotify, that's the type of failure that taints your brand. While a very generic, approved by both parties statement was made about a mutual decision to part ways in 2022, there were multiple ways that Meghan could have stayed under the Spotify platform to save face and continue to monetize archetypes and her content. Meghan independently could have found one giant sponsor like Coca-Cola to keep her pushing forward. She could have read an ad before, during, or after her show, or she could have allowed them to place a generic commercial within her program. Spotify's team could have assigned her ads from their unique pre-existing pool of podcast advertisers. I mean, that's what they do. They've already got an existing list of those people willing to toss money towards a podcast that is deemed successful. Or Meghan could have charged users a monthly membership fee for original content. Those are three separate ways Meghan could have remained at Spotify and avoided the embarrassment of an official breakup. And I give you that example to prove to you my opinion, which is that this was not an amicable split. In February's Vanity Fair cover story, it will go down in infamy, it was revealed that contractually, Harry and Meghan weren't holding up their end of the bargain, and Spotify was frantic for content from them throughout their working relationship. The article explained in depth what happened behind the scenes and claims that the couple pitched a range of mediocre ideas, one of which was Prince Harry's idea that he interviewed the likes of Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump, with the idea being to understand how their life experiences shaped them into, in his view, sociopaths. As years went by, Spotify began applying pressure for the couple to just produce anything, beyond a Tyler Perry Christmas special. Vanity Fair believes that part of the reason Harry and Meghan were so slow to execute came down to their own fear about how what they produced might be perceived. One former employee claimed, "I can say that they had really great ideas for shows, interesting pitches, interesting guests, but them as the deliverers, or either of them as the hosts of these more kind of edgy ideas, would have been like, they would have had to move again." The article quotes Jane Marie. That's from one of their former producers. She continued, "I think it's a combination of self-censorship for good reason and the corporate powers that be that run podcasting that don't know what that is to create valuable shows. In combination, those things make it really hard to make good stuff." Well, I'd call that an excuse. Meghan, another source claims, would agree to provocative ideas and then walk them back, often late in production, requiring significant edits. For example, in her Archetypes podcast, she initially okayed an episode called Slut, but then retitled it Human Being. Every episode got more and more watered down and further away from actual conversation, a source told Vanity Fair. Once Archetypes finally wrapped, a show Vanity Fair claims wasn't even Meghan's concept to begin with, she employed her publicity team to work overtime to secure her multiple awards for content that clearly wasn't strong enough to save her relationship with Spotify. But those trophies and awards were just as quickly forgotten and overshadowed by the termination of the Sussex's contract with Spotify. There's hardly anything salacious about female founders. This is a safe space for Meghan. Moving to Lemonada Media likely limited Meghan's resources immensely. No more 17 executive producers. So some of her problems from the past, excessive edits, flip-flopping on how far she's willing to go, are likely irrelevant today. I don't think she will knock Joe Rogan off his throne again, however temporary that was. But Meghan does sound friendlier, engaged, and like she has her guard down from what we've heard in this preview. Listen, she has an audience of people that like her. They have decided to believe what she is working so hard to convince people that she is. But to quote one of Markle's favorite authors, Maya Angelou, when people show you who they are, believe them. If you ask me who the real Meghan Markle is, I'd point you to the Oprah Winfrey interview where you see a woman who seems very bitter and resentful. I think one of the problems is she has shown us so many different versions that we don't know who the real Meghan Markle is. But we do know Meghan doesn't want to be seen that way anymore, which is why she's hijacked the word joy from Kamala Harris. She's really trying to push this happy ever after fairy tale narrative, which will become increasingly harder to maintain if Prince Harry keeps going on TV saying he's worried about acid attacks or threatening the NYPD with an intervention by Harry's friend, Governor Gavin Newsom. Harry's paranoia conflicts with Meghan's aspirational lifestyle storyline, which is why I think we're seeing less and less of him. At the end of the day, will this new podcast work? Yeah, I think it will be fine. I think it will just exist. It's not going to be a cultural phenomenon like Rogan, but it's safe to exist under Lemonada Media, where Meghan doesn't have the same pressure to churn out content and succeed because Spotify was so eager to see that return on investment. In the grand scheme of things, I feel like the structure is backwards. I would have preferred a TV series about the development of a podcast, not a podcast about the development of a tradwife show and blog and retail, e-commerce site. But this is Meghan having full creative control, clearly, and criticism will and has fallen on her for some uninspiring content lately. That's the risk you take. Would I listen to Confessions of a Female Founder voluntarily? No. I prefer to take professional advice from people that did it themselves and didn't marry a prince to secure their seat at the table. But you can listen to it if you choose to, because the first episode is out April 8th.